Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Season 2, Week 49 of the DC Sports Digest. Pretty busy week this week as some teams are wrapping up their seasons and some teams are ramping up and gearing to start their seasons. So without further ado, let's get into a busy week of DC Sports. Starting with the Nationals, they won the Mets series, but they lost the Braves series and the first game of the White Sox series, getting them to a 65-95 record. Starting off the week, it was actually pretty good. Dalen Lyle hit an inside the park homer, and Nats walked off the Mets. And Mitchell Parker got his first save in the bullpen. Longest save in Nats history, actually, at 3 innings. And we actually won a series against the Mets, who are fighting for a playoff spot right now. Jacob Young continued to show his stellar defensive plays in the outfield. Made some great plays in the Mets and Braves series. And last night, we mounted an 8-1 comeback, had 8 unanswered runs. But unfortunately, we still lost the game 10-9. We had 6 home runs in the game with Luis Garcia hitting 3. We also had 4 errors and ended up losing that game, unfortunately. Kenzie Gore and Mason Thompson hit IL, so I assume their seasons are done. They recalled Julian Fernandez and Orlando Ribalta. And James Wood hit 30 home runs, got, I think, a couple home runs this week. So huge congratulations to him hitting 30 home runs. He's been kind of in a slump since after All-Star break. But it's good to see him continue to hit some home runs and get to 30 home runs in his first full season, which is amazing to see. And then finally, we have a really big move. We named Paul Tabani head of baseball ops / GM. So it seems like a really good young hire. He was an assistant for the Red Sox. And it sounds like from what I might have heard, the Lerners might give him full autonomy, like to make moves and maybe give him some more money. So if he gets full autonomy and he can do what he wants to and needs to improve and rebuild this team, this is a really amazing move, and I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully he'll get full autonomy, and I think if he does, I think I have pretty good confidence in him moving forward. And that's all I really have for the Nationals. Coming up this week, they have their last 2 games of the season versus the White Sox, and then next week I will recap those and recap the whole of this disappointing season. And that's all I have for the Nats. On to the Wizards, not too much last week, but this week they have Media Day and training camp starting, so that will be great to see as the Wizards start ramping up for the season. That's all I got for them. On to the Capitals, they have started preseason. They scored 4 first-period goals versus Boston in a 5-2 win, and they also beat the Flyers 5-1 in Hershey, so that was great to see. We also had brothers Dylan and Matthew Strome and Alexei and Ilya Protas playing in those games, so that was great to see the brotherly love. And great to see some wins in the preseason. Coming up this week, we have 3 more preseason games versus the Devils, Blue Jackets, and Bruins. Then after that, there's 1 more preseason game the week after and the start of the season. So regular season for hockey is getting ever closer. On to the Commanders. They bounced back and beat the Raiders 41-24, getting them to a 2-1 record. Offense looked really good this week. 200-plus rushing yards, a lot of big plays. Jalen Lane punt return touchdown. Jeremy Nichols had a big touchdown. Debo had a long kick return, so that was just great to see. Marcus Mariota played pretty well. Other than that one fumble, he did pretty well. The Raiders' offense was also bottled up. Bobby Wagner recorded 2 sacks against his former teammate Geno Smith, so that was great to see. Von Miller got a sack as well, so that was awesome. But unfortunately, injuries are continuing to pile up. Will Harris fractured his fibula. He is put on IR. Jaden and Terry are both out this week, and John Bates and Noah Brown as well. And Percy Butler and Bill are also questionable. Trey Amos and Colson Yankoff are hurt, but they are good to go for the Sunday. Also, congrats to Terry for moving up to 5th all-time in franchise receiving yards. He should have had a touchdown last week, but he was tackled at the 1-yard line. That happens way too often with him, but that's okay. We also signed safety Darnell Savage to replace Will Harris. He looked really good. I think he's fallen off a little bit in the last couple of years, but I think it's a solid sign, and we definitely need it to fill in the safety depth. So now we'll have Quan Martin, Darnell Savage, and Jeremy Reeves as our main safeties until Will Harris gets back, which is obviously at least 4 more weeks. Also, Sam Cosmi is, I think, getting closer to a return. Obviously, it won't be this week. Maybe next week at the earliest, but also you don't want to rush anything. But he will be back in the next couple weeks, I think. Also, congrats to Jalen Lane for winning Rookie of the Week. Our fans are just amazing because they vote so many times. It's a fan-voted award. I saw one fan that voted like 7,000 times to get Jalen Lane that award, so that was great to see. Amazing to see that punt return touchdown. And coming up, we have this week versus the Falcons, another revenge game for Marcus Mariota, who will be starting again. Definitely a game we should win. It'll be tougher than the Raiders, especially without Jaden, but I think we can still do it. And I think a game we need to win, especially as we look to Week 5 versus a very difficult opponent in the Chargers. I think we need to win this and get to 3-1, so we can afford to lose a game versus the Chargers, like we were able to beat the Giants and afford to lose versus the Packers. And that's all I have for this week. Hopefully the Commanders can get a win and move up to 3-1. On other DC sports news, DC United lost to Miami. Their next game is today versus Philly. The Spirit and DC Power both didn't have games this week, but the Spirit play Houston and have a Women's Championship Cup game versus New York, and DC Power plays versus Carolina this week. On to my weekly awards, I had the Nationals beating the Mets 5-3 for my game of the week. My player of the week I'm giving to James Wood for reaching 30 home runs in his first full season, and my team week is going to be going to the Commanders for beating the Raiders 41-24, a very dominant victory. That's all I have in this video, so make sure to check out the Instagram and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!